I want to invite you on a trip to New Orleans, Louisiana. I spent some time there earlier this year and accidentally stayed the night in a former plantation home that is now being used as a hotel. On plantations, enslaved people were held in bondage, were exploited for their knowledge in farming, and worked under inhumane working conditions due to which many lost their lives. A plantation was a place of oppression. Staying in a somewhat luxurious hotel room on a former plantation home felt incredibly wrong to me. As a German, I grew up with the guilt of the terrible past of my country, and while sometimes overwhelmed with that legacy, I always knew that it is important to acknowledge the past in order to take responsibility for the future. Yet here I found myself feeling like people were ignorantly entering this space and thus replicating history. So I asked myself, how can we use a plantation home to raise the voices of the oppressed? How can we break the cycle of ignorance, trauma, and oppression that gets perpetuated in these places? And how can we use a plantation home responsibly? This is how the New Orleans Artist Residency came to life. Over the last couple of months, I started engaging with the community. I talked to artists of color to listen from them and learn about their work, learn about their experience of being an artist of color, and learn about the legacy of slavery in the US. From these conversations, I was able to derive a lot of insight. I learned that the history of racial inequality in the United States has created continuing challenges for all Americans, and that these include inequitable access to resources for artists of color. This ultimately led to the New Orleans Artist Residency. The residency is housed in a former plantation home outside of New Orleans and awards fellowships to artists of color. The fellowships gives artists the resources that they need to succeed, such as a space to work and housing. The program also offers artists opportunities to build meaningful professional relationships and gain broader recognition for their work. Ultimately, the program is an opportunity for artists to recreate their own narrative by experiencing the space through their art. The New Orleans Artist Residency really is a platform to break the wall of oppression by giving people who have a history of oppression the opportunity and autonomy to transform a space like a former plantation home into a space of empowerment. Thank you.